Oh, good morning, everybody. We are so pleased to have a chance to speak with some of the people who follow our channel and who watch us. Um, and we need to just come together sometime and talk to one another about the issues that we all face, and we find out that we have more answers than we realize. And we can help by passing our thoughts and our energy on to one another. So I want to introduce our panel and have each one of them to give us a little bit about themselves. I guess we'll start with Dexter. Um, no, I said we were going to start with Nefertiti. Nefertiti. I keep with Nigel, who is a beautiful young. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, thank you, Minister Brown. My name is Nefa Najee. Currently, I am living in Maryland, not too far away from Southeast DC. Um, right now, I'm making the transition to Africa and trying to prepare my work for that transition. I have a website, intellectualmaroons.com, where I do book reports, notes, and I actually host African-centered education resources in addition to tutoring African-centered education on the website.
Thank you.
So just a little bit.
Okay, brother Dexter, I know you're a web developer and you do films and you are also in school. So tell us a little bit about yourself so we know who we are talking with.
I'm Dexter. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I live in Los Angeles, California right now. I go to Santa Monica College, do web development, web design, graphic design, post-production, film videos, and I think I said graphic design. Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, brother James. Brother James, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we're glad to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Minister Brown, for having me on this morning. I'm James Wilson. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I live in Atlanta currently, and I've authored two children's books. My first being "Teach Me About Garvey," an introduction to some of the achievements and vision of Most Honorable Marcus Garvey, and then my second book, "Red, Black, and Green: Tell Me What It Means." That's coming soon. I'm just committing most of my efforts to helping Black children, help to cultivate the mind of Black children, helping them to reimagine the world where African people take precedence. I also started a nonprofit, Mine and Yours Community Initiative, and with that, we're just going to try to commit to endeavors that are going to further the interest of African people around the world, and one being an African Center scholarship, and more details about that will be coming soon.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have with us Brother Antonio Miller. Brother Miller, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to us.
First off, thank you for having me, Minister Brown. It's an honor. My name is Antonio Miller. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I teach African history at a high school. I'm a high school teacher, teaching African history. I've been teaching it for about 5 or 6, 7 years now. And I'm truly dedicated to learning, African people learning about who we are and, us having a purpose through learning who we are. I'm currently writing the book now. It's not finished, it's in the process. Actually, two. And, I'm putting everything together to start my own youth center to help the youth in Chicago. because like the Honorable Frederick Douglass once said, it's easier to build strong children than fix broken men. So I'm 100% or 1000% dedicated to building, educating African youth for progression.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is absolutely wonderful to have this group with us, young, intelligent brothers and sisters who are committed to moving their community and their people forward. So I just threw out a few topics that we could have a conversation on this morning because we're living in a time of almost unimaginable deception and I'd say lies and the kinds of tension that's put on the Black community and Black people, the stress factors that are brought upon us by the system. So I wanted to talk about ways that we can empower ourselves and ways that we can share and move together to bring about our empowerment, both politically, economically, and educationally. And we actually just pulled together a number of people who listen at our web channel. And we're just amazed when we talk to people that they're really up on so much of what's going on. So we just chose this group to begin to share with one another. So I want to again throw it out to our sister Nefert. I don't know why I keep, probably because you are real never nice. Let's open up with you and let you give us your insight into things that we can do that will empower us as a people to be more self-sufficient. And I'm not afraid to use the term economically healthy. We can talk about our health. We can talk about any number of issues that you think that we need to be discussing as a people because it is our time. We're in the time of chaos, and the energy that is flowing, ancestors wrote this in the zodiac, which is 26,000 years ago. So we're in that period of Kephas, which is the rise of the Ethiopian star, and that's us. And so all we have to do really is live my art and design what kind of world we want to bring into being. And we will match our energy, we'll put our energy with the energy that is emanating out of the universe for our empowerment. So we want to get your insight and expressions of that. Okay.
Okay. My first offer would be to immediately take Black children out of schools that are harming them. Black children in America are the only natural resource that we have, period. There is nothing else that we produce as African Americans other than our children. And if we immediately put our children into the institution that is meant to demean and to harm their psycho-spiritual, holistic selves, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, beyond a disservice. So economically speaking, I know that it's difficult to say, you know, just take your children out, because not everybody has the means to do that. But COVID has shown us that we actually do have the means to do that. We do have the means to connect with family members that may not be working and can watch our children while they do activities, self-directed activities, via the internet, via going to the park, via going to the museums. There's plenty of things that our children can be doing to learn outside of Yurugu institutions. So that is, in my opinion, the most important. We can do things for ourselves, and if we don't do anything for the children, we've done nothing. So that is my opinion.
Hey, Brother Dexter, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I agree with what she said. I myself am, and I feel like it is that time too. Everybody that I'm surrounding myself with seems to be on the same page, so I could feel some type of energy going on. I joined some organizations. An organization I'm in right now is taking people on trips to Africa. We went to Ghana recently, took some people on a trip to Ghana to reconnect, to make some connections and build some bridges between the two. Um, but before all that, I went through a transformation myself, watching the Tap channel, and that led me through a bunch of different master teachers, led me to a bunch of different books, and it really made me want to connect and design that future that you're talking about, and use my skills to like add to the movement or to help people get to where I'm at right now faster than what I did.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Excellent. Brother Miller. Yes, sir.
So I would say that you know, the number one goal would be to start with educating the youth. Um, as Nefer Nigel said, you know, that's the best resource that we have. That's the best investment that we have as a people within this country. And you know, maybe it's just the teacher in me. I love to invest, you know, my knowledge and my wisdom into the youth because it gives them a sense of purpose. It gives them that sense. You know, I see that when I'm teaching. You know, I see how students, when they learn about Sony Ali, you know, Askia the Great, when they learn about Mansa Musa, when they learn about, you know, Taharka, when they learn about the master teachers like Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Dr. Amos Wilson, you know, it's a look that they have that I can't even explain it. And you know, once they have that sense of self, they get confidence. And once they get confidence, they get that ambition. And once they get that ambition, they create purpose. And we can start to invest that purpose within our youth. So I think that the first way to start with building ourselves as a people is to start with the youth and to re-educate them, you know, re-educate them on the lifestyle that they have been taught by their community, you know, by society and the media. So I would say start with that. um Tap has done a good job with teaching me that. You know, as brother Dexter said, it led me to a bunch of master teachers, you know, like it led me to, you know, one of my greatest heroes, Dr. John Henry Clark. And you know, I have every book that he's written, you know, co-written, put an introduction in. Like I actually studied him. I studied Dr. Ben. And I just think that, you know, the history is where it starts first because it creates a sense of purpose for our children. So I would say that the number one way for us to get out of this, you know, this dark hole that we're in is to invest everything positive into our youth.
Now, you're a teacher, right? You teach. So you talked about how when you're looking at the children, you can see their spirit light up when you're teaching this history.
Yes.
I taught school as well,
Okay.
and I know what you're saying is correct. But talk a little more about that when you say that they gain confidence in themselves and they're inspired to do. They're inspired to do what you teach them that their ancestors did. They believe they can do it, and they do it. But kind of talk about these young people a little more.
So are you saying like how it inspires them?
Yes.
So when they
And give me the age as well, because sometimes that uh, they're too young to learn about African history and all this, and they don't really take it in. But go ahead.
Okay, so the ages that I teach 17 and 18. I teach juniors and seniors. And I'm in Chicago, and we all watch the news about the youth in Chicago. But I come from the streets of Chicago, and it's not that we're just bad, it's just that we're lost. And when they get in my classroom, they start out like, man, what is this? What is that? And in about 2 weeks, I've been calculating it since I've been in there. I calculate in about 2 weeks, their mentality starts to change. And when they learn of the things that our ancestors has accomplished, as far as inventing the maths and the science, and I'll give you an example. We read a serpent from African Glory, and it talked about when an Arab historian, when he came to Mali in 1352, what he saw, and he was saying that he's seen pretty much a utopian society. He's seen a society without crime. He's seen a society with full security, with full protection. And the students were looking and was like, we started like that. They were amazed by it. They were like, Mr. Miller, we started by that. How did our community get this way? And that's when they start to ask those questions, that's when it's time to start investing that wisdom. But when they learn of the things our ancestors have done, it makes them want to do it as well. So that's why I was saying that it creates that sense of ambition, because it's like a lot of us, we don't know that our ancestors accomplished the things that we've accomplished. We don't even know that, I mean, pretty much everything in our household in America was invented by African people. And when they learn this, it makes them want to do more. It makes them want to, participate in the community more, because they start to see value in themselves and in their communities. I've had students come up to me with petitions and, trying to start organizations and asking me for advice on how to gather people and, can I come to this event? And I just love it. So learning about who they are, it gives them that ambition, and ambition gives them that purpose.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No
Brother Dexter.
Yes, sir.
Let me hear, because you also teach and you're in more web design and stuff like that, but you're teaching all the time. How do you feel in terms of investing in our children? And I know you can translate all this into the films you make and the videos you do. So tell us a little bit how you impact this transformation with young people, and are you working with young people?
I am working with younger people in the organization I'm in called West to West Movement. We have a Saturday school that we do, and we teach younger kids. I believe like 6 to 9 or 6 to 10. We teach them about Africa and do science with plant. Teach them how to plant. Teach them big names like Mansa Musa. Teach them about Marcus Garvey. Teach them the countries on the continent. Stuff like that. We are getting into older ages, and I think it's more impactful to start from the bottom and move up. But I like to deal with people like teenagers per se, so I could try to break it down to them in a digestible way. And with the younger people, they have the big imagination and they like to get things in a colorful way. And I'm kind of colorful, but I'm not as colorful as the kids might want me to be. But they have fun regardless. But it will the information they get is not what they are gonna receive at any public school or private that's not ran by people like y'all.
Okay. Um, Thank you, Brother Dexter. Uh, Brother White, uh, give us a little bit about your relationship with young people and your input in terms of when you are observing them and how what you are teaching them affects them one way or another. If you can relate that to, uh, we have so much crime in the Black community. Well, we say we have so much crime, but I think a lot of that is exaggerated. But talk to us about your experience and what impact that has on children, both towards themselves and their elders and neighbors in the community.
Um, well, with my position with creating content, African centered content for our youth, um, just to piggyback off of Nefer Nigel, what you first said, with Black children being our first natural resource, that's very true. And then what Brother Antonio said about, with teaching the youth and, bringing about that excitement in them, one thing that I'm really looking to do, not just with the books, but with my nonprofit, is that when we really invest in our children, we're gonna first have to invest in the teachers, those who administer the information to them and help them to digest it and go forward. So in that, like I said, one of the initiatives I'm really looking to do is this African Center Scholarship that pairs a knowledge base rooted in African centeredness with different areas, in particular teaching for our youth. But when I do go in front of the children with my book, when I go to the different schools and read, like Brother Miller was saying, when they find out information just as simple that Egypt is in Africa and that the pyramids in Africa is wild, and to catch them at such impressionable ages where they're able to grasp that and hone in on that, it cultivates their perspective and outlook going forward that normalizes their capabilities and what they actually are able to attain. And then socializing them to relate to one another as brothers and sisters, as opposed to competing with each other. That's something else that I seek to do, that I do try to do when I do go in front of our children. So I think we have very basic steps that we can take, and these basic steps that I'm saying right now, these come from the minds of the people that Tapvideo gave to me, in the form of Amos Wilson and Dr. Clark. It's just very basic things that we need to take care of first. And I try to make that as relatable and digestible to our children as possible. I hope I was on topic with answering that question.
No, very good, very good. I appreciate it. Sister Nefer Nigel, now you said that you were in a process of transformation, that you were getting ready to go to Africa to live permanently. Um, let's talk about that for a minute. Why do you want to go to Africa? Why do you want to make this transition? Is it because you don't see a future in America? Talk to me about it. Why you think that's where we should be moving? Go ahead.
I'm going to Africa. I'm going to Africa because I'm a mother and I want a future for my son that is possible in America. I don't want my son to have to deal with um I don't want to up the disgustingness of what the society is, but I don't want my son to have to deal with that. I don't want him to have to deal with, YouTube ads that are extremely, extremely graphic, and it's just not the kind of reality that I want for my child. And I don't think this is the kind of reality that any African child needs to have. So that is the main reason why I'm going. I'm also going because I see America as not being the future in the near future. And I that it's a possibility if we were to all connect and really focus on getting schools and telling them that they need to be focusing on agriculture so that we can feed ourselves for the food shortages that are coming. If there is hope, but I don't want my son to have to struggle with that. So we'll be going to which President Moody has made it very clear that he cares about global African people. He cares about his people, and he's not going to let the bully or push him into Western ideologies and indoctrinations. So we'll be going to Tanzania, where it also is about to and already is feed other African countries. Tanzania is overflowing with food that they are giving to Zambia. They're giving to Uganda. It's it's in my opinion the best place to be right now, Pan African fan. So that is why I'm moving. I do see a future here that I'm excited about. Honestly, I've worked with children. I've worked I've worked independently on my own, deschooling DC, deschooling damaged consciousness, something that I've been trying to do for the last years. And although you can dent, you can definitely shine a light in children's lives, like swimming against nightfall, living in this environment. So I will provide a center in Africa that will reach back to this area, reach back to the diaspora, and reach back to African children in a way that I feel people have been reaching out to African children. So specifically, the center will be a library that will push for African-centered, self-directed education.
Okay, I thank you for that, Sister Nigel. But have you already been?
Nigeria.
Have you lived in Africa before?
Never set foot in Africa. I'll be the first in both sides of my family to set foot in Africa post my. I've lived abroad. I've lived in the Caribbean islands with my son. Um, it's something. It's a transition that I know he welcomed. So I'm very excited to do it.
Let me ask you, how old is your son?
Son is 2. He will be 3 November 14th. So he's coming up on 3.
Okay, let me say that's a great time to make the move because growing up, he will have friends and he'll grow up in an atmosphere so that it would become very natural to him. However, I've been to many African countries, and sometimes I think we do romanticize Africa. So I think we need to be kind of, aware of that history of its greatness and also its colonialization and how that still lingers and plays as an impact. You go there. There is a transition that you will make, that we all have to make. But my experience was that the love and warmth that came from the communities that I visited and was able to live with the people was just fantastic, and it helped me uh, to develop a love that is unspeakable. You know, I'll just give you a pineapple for an example. Tastes sweeter. I'm not lying. The pineapples taste sweeter. Bananas taste sweeter. Everything tasted better, and I never found myself afraid of the police or the soldiers or whatever because I just did not encounter them that way, and so it was just a great time. So I think that your move is the right move at the right time for your son. His age, I think, is right, and I think you will be. So somebody just sent us a text that she is so pretty. Talking about you. Nice. So I pass it on. Uh, so I think you're making the right move. But I want to get back to Brother Dexter and ask him in terms of what he sees and how important is building an economy for African Americans, and how do you factor that economic development? Because I don't care what it is that you want to do, it takes an economy, it takes money. You can't have liberation without money. It just doesn't happen. You can't fight the struggle without money. I mean, there are tons of things that we can do just out of love for one another. But in order to make the kind of transformation that we have to make as a people, we have to have an economy, and we have to have politics, and we have to have education. So I'm just asking you if you can express your insight to the development of that, and if you have any ideas, what are some of the first things that we need to start developing to make that to make our communities more self-sufficient?
I would say first, develop our own form of politics so we don't have to dibble and dabble in the politics that oppress us. And secondly, to build the economy. I mean, well, first build the economy and then build the politics. But I'm into the Powernomics book right now by Dr. Claude Anderson, and I'm reading this blueprint for Black Power at the same time. Um, Developing an economy where we can work together and put our money towards things like education, building institutions that serve our benefit and serve purposes, serve our purposes.
Let me add
Mhm.
let me add another book to your list there. As a matter of fact, it's a videotape. We just put it up last week. It's Dr. Clark speaking on law and order in Africa before European contact, because it gives you a different way that we related to one another that was more inducive to the way African people process their society, their relationships with one another, and how they injected that into law and order. And someone has said a little earlier, but that there were no jails. They didn't see any jails, and I never saw really a lot of jails. As a matter of fact, when I was in Ghana, and I was there 4 or 5 times a year. They had, if they had one killing a year, that was a lot, you know. And when I first started going to Ghana, um, I have left my camera on the beach and come back a day later, and the camera wasn't there, but someone knew who had taken it, and they would say things like, "Oh, I would tell him it belongs to you," and they would bring it back. And no kidding, before the end of the day, my camera would be brought to me. And that happened to me twice. So Africa is different, but the more Europeans have come in, it has changed. And they take on more of the European ideology, the European gods and belief system. And it has made a difference, though I still love Africa and can, I look forward to getting back there, even though I haven't been to Africa in 10 years, but I used to go when I was young like yourself. I lived there. I loved it. Brother James,
Yes, sir.
let's hear your insight into how we build an economy and some of the things we should do first in terms of we got to feed ourselves, we got to protect ourselves, and we got to create our policy, our politics that would get us where we got to go. Can you give us some insights on how you think we can do that and what are the issues that we should deal with first?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that economic base critical, and I like how Amos Wilson put it one time. He was saying that a viable economy is really set on how those in the economy, those participating in the economy, relate to one another. And so again, I think it's gonna have to start with us socializing one another to relate to one another in a certain economic fashion. Um, my family, we used to have a store. My grandmother's cousins used to have a store in Nashville. It was the only black produce store in Nashville, and I mean, that store could have excelled overnight. You know, they were growing the food and selling it at the store. It could have been a multi-million-dollar venture. You could have had different stores all over. If just a quarter of the black population in Nashville would have committed to shopping there, you know, or if a quarter of the population committed to buying here once a week, you know, that could have taken off. So it's just a matter of, well, one aspect of it is just committing ourselves to buying at one black-owned place or several black-owned places several times throughout the week or however. But an economic base is critical, like you said, Mr. Brown, for everything. You know, even going back to what we were talking about earlier with investing in the youth and with education. And I love what Nephaniah and Dexter and my brother Antonio were talking about. Even to present our children with the type of knowledge that we need to have, we're going to have to finance teachers. We'll have to finance teachers with a certain way of thinking. So, you know, we in dire need of several million Antonio Millers. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
we have to make our economy purpose driven. So I'm hoping I'm staying on top of answering that question. But yeah, like just very simple things, I believe, you know, committing to several black-owned businesses and going there. It's a black-owned business that provides toilet paper. I think they call it Ultra Cosmic. I now buy my toilet paper exclusively from them. You know, it's a little higher, but if everybody commits, they can go down on their prices, you know. So just things like that, I believe, you know, we'll have to do. And then just essential areas like right now I'm at work and I'm moving around a little bit, but I work in water treatment and drinking water treatment. This is an essential area where we really need a black presence, an African presence in. So just looking to invest in things like that going forward. Just very simple things, but you know, it does have a complex side to it.
Okay. Well. We have a sister who has us. We got some more feminine energy. So I'm not going to waste any time with bringing her up. Sister Atina, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but will you give us a correct pronunciation and tell us a little bit about yourself? God King, we're not hearing Sister Atina.
I've just unmuted myself. Apologies for that.
Oh,
Greetings, everybody.
greetings. Glad to have you with us. We
Likewise.
got all these brothers, but we don't have enough feminine energy. Sister Nefertiti, she did a fantastic job of holding down the feminine energy and balancing all of us brothers out. So I welcome you and I thank you for being a follower of Tapvideo. And we want to hear a little bit about you and how you see what is happening to us today, right now, both historically and at present.
Thank you, Minister Brown. First of all, I'd like to just ask for some excuse a minute because I do have my young ones here. So in case I have to dash off at any point, that's all that's happening. And my name, the pronunciation is Atieno. So you weren't too far off. That was pretty close. It's an East African name, meaning born in the, I think it's born in the evening. Yeah. So I'm grateful for this space. Sorry. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. We'll go back to Brother Dexter. Have you been to Africa, Brother Dexter?
I have not. My first time is going to be next year in Ghana with the organization that I'm with right now called West to West.
West to West?
Yeah, West to West movement.
Can you tell us a little bit about it and why Ghana?
Most definitely. They take people on trips to Africa, build connections, and trade resources. And the goal of it is to help people connect and understand what they don't know about Africa and have that connection for themselves and be able to visit and kind of add that to your culture, like how Muslims will have to go to Mecca. I think Black people should have to go to Africa like that. So that's how I look at it. But we also do a Saturday school for kids as well to teach them about Africa. So right now we're doing 6 to 10. And we're transitioning into teenagers and young adults.
Brother Dexter.
Yep.
Somebody just asked us a question. They want to know how old are you. I guess they think that you look young and but they want to know how old are you. If you don't mind telling them.
I turned 29 this year, September 11th.
Maybe we better find out what your diet is, because you which will which will kind of bring us into our next our next topic, and that is on health and how important is it? Because when you look at our community, we we are number one in all of the sicknesses like diabetes and all of those high blood pressure, overweight, stuff like that. So, how important is uh, is growing our own food, and uh, how do we get a hold of this uh, taste for things like fast food? And the reason that we are so unhealthy has primarily to do with our diet. How do we correct that? I'm calling on you, Sister Niger, to open us up on this conversation.
Um, I think Layla Africa makes it very clear that we are out of our minds, not just because of the choices that we make with food, but because of the food that we're consuming. We're directly consuming the food of our enemies. We're directly we are disattached from nature. My grandmother's generation was better when it comes to stuff like just having knowledge of gardening. Um, but I'm 2 generations away. We're completely disconnected unless you have someone that gave you the gift of gardening. So I wanted to mention someone saying that in the comments that the children in Africa doing much better. And it's not to compare the two, but in certain categories, relatively African children are going to have a better opportunity. The children here, it's hard to not deal with the red dye and candy and sugar and poison, essentially. We're dealing with poison in our food, and that leads to having cognitive issues in school and in life. You can see people that have had diets of oodles and noodles all their life, not just malnutrition, but mentally, there's a disconnect. So, agriculture is if agriculture and education are right next to each other when it comes to survival. We need to be able to survive, and spiritually speaking, we need to have connection with the earth. We need to be eating foods that God creates and not food that the enemy is creating. That's how I feel.
Sister Atino, I am to have you back with us. And I want you to continue. You were telling us a little bit about yourself. So please do.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be on this space. I really like what my sister there just shared in response to your question about agriculture and how important it is. And absolutely, it's right up there with education and just stopping the consuming of poisons, which is so readily available in our communities, and sometimes even depended upon in our communities. I know I've been in Africa a few times where, it's a staple thing to have sugar in your tea. People not knowing how bad the implications of sugar are necessarily. But take that as as a staple diet in the household. They can't go without sugar at times, and sometimes it's hard to see. So agriculture definitely is very important. We need to be not only acquiring land, we need to be growing food as much as possible. So thank you, sister, for what you shared there. Very much resonance on that point. As for me, I'm based in the UK. I'm from East Africa originally, and I am, well, I suppose I'm a filmmaker and also studying film currently. And I'm very grateful for such spaces as Clemson Brown Reporting and Transatlantic Productions, because there's a wealth of information that this platform provides, which is really like no other. It's, you know, I have a brother over here in the UK that referred to this as the library of Timbuktu in modern day. And absolutely, I feel that way because of the great speakers that we have on here, the great knowledge that is shared. It's not easily attainable in other places. So really, I give thanks for this platform, and also for the exchanges that we can have in such a way. I'm glad, you know, the online platform takes away the physical localities and the borders and restrictions around that. So it's really good to kind of come together, share ideas and experiences this way.
So I wanna thank you so much for that. And I just wanna share with the family. Uh, when I was much younger, much younger, I was a boxer. I mean, was a boxer. I had a few fights. I had 8. I won 6. I lost 2. But I never lost to a white uh, component because I never believed that a white component could beat me. The 2 fights I lost were both to brothers, and I didn't have the same determination to beat them as I had with with a European, and I I think that's why uh, they won those. I lost those 2 fights. It was uh, I didn't see them as an enemy. I saw them really as a brother, and I just couldn't get the same, the same power. I couldn't bring the same power to bear to beat them. And one of those brothers that beat me, uh, I mean, and he really changed my life because he talked to me afterwards and he said to me, "You're in the wrong business. Just like I can read you, there's going to be somebody who really want to hurt you bad can read you the same way because you telegraph a lot of your punches. And every time you think you're going to hit me with that haymaker because you ain't got the one good punch." And he said, and I can read it. He said, when you get set to throw it, I unload on your ass. And he said, somebody else is going to be able to see you as well as I do. And they're going to hurt you. So I said all this just to get around to saying that when I was in Africa, um, I didn't have a lot of fear of anybody because I always saw myself as being able to take care of myself, you know. But I didn't see a lot of weaklings for the most part in Africa. They show brothers, and all these babies with uh, flies on them and all of that stuff. Uh, but shit, the brothers and sisters that I encountered were much more healthier than our community here because they eat fresh food. They go to the market just about, every day. Uh, they eat better and they are stronger. And they build like 4-story high buildings and they carry all those cinder blocks up them 4 stories. They have a ramp, but I mean, it's just marvelous. So for our sisters who say they can't find enough brothers here, there are a lot of brothers on the continent that you can have a choice from. But I say let's deal with the brothers that we have here. We got so many of them in jails on these trumped up charges, and I mean that's one of the ways that the system systematically deals with the African male is to make sure uh, that they are locked up. To the point that you have private prisons that have contracts with the states to keep them at 90% capacity. That's a contract with the state. So, I mean, when we begin to look at the kind of systematic racism and death that is brought upon us every day, the relationship that we have with Africa and that we must develop with Africa becomes that much greater uh, of a demand and a focus for us right now. And I don't think that we should run away from the politics that we're involved in America. Uh, say if we look at Biden and we look at Trump, we got to hold whoever is in power uh, to force them to deal with reparations, to deal with our issues. But first, we got to have a platform to do this. So this will be our last subject, but I want to start with Brother James and ask each one of us if we can make a comment on that. Brother James, can you give us a comment on the uh, state state collaboration with private prisons, police departments that come right out of slave catchers? You know, I mean, they go back. That's the way the police department was developed. So when they're in our community, they feel like they are still doing the job that they were originally uh, developed to do because they didn't have police forces in America. I mean, they had a sheriff, but they had vigilante and the Ku Klux Klan and all of these other groups that dealt with runaway slaves, not the Ku Klux Klan was the apparatus. They became the apparatus. But in the beginning, it was the slave catchers and the militia that white people built to keep black people in order that transition to the police department. So, as a brother, can you speak on this topic as our last topic for the day?
Yeah, I mean, you said it all there, Minister Brown. Like, you know, this criminal justice system in this country really isn't meant to prevent crime, but like Amos said, it's really meant to maintain that criminal element. And I was talking to some of my family members because one of our cousins was killed by the police 3 years ago. And we were just talking. I was just saying it's so funny that all of the police precincts are built in black neighborhoods. And so that just kind of reinforces that criminality perspective on the black community. How to get from up under that type of criminal justice system and state-sponsored terrorism is really going to take, like I was saying earlier, we're really going to have a lot of African-centered professionals and people in these arenas with that knowledge base in to kind of get us from up under that and really really to sabotage. Like we have a lot of black lawyers, we have a lot of black elected officials who function as components of that Eurocentric, that white supremacist type of system. And so we, like I was saying earlier, we're really going to have people with a knowledge base and who are convicted who are obligated to African interests at the core, to not only just function in our interests, but to really, sabotage these type of systems. And I don't know if I would say, build it from within, but start it over. That's the best response I would have to something like that, Minister Brown.
Okay, thank you. We have brother Reggie, who is joining us. So I want to go back and let Brother Reggie introduce himself to us and tell us a little bit about himself. And Reggie, we're dealing with the question of black incarceration, and how do we deal with that, both on our own part and politically with the system that embeds as a part of its control of black people the incarceration of black males in particular, and the history of this coming directly out of the slave institution where that developed into the police force that we have. Brother Reggie? Brother Reggie, your mic, you're coming across kind of messed up. Your mic, we can't understand you. Okay. I don't know what it is. See if you can help your sound. Brother Darrell, can you bring Brother Reggie into the studio with us with clear sound?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Brother Reggie, please.
Okay, so first, I am so excited to be on this panel. I have listened to each and every one of these warriors. Gender not important, and I've heard their ideas, and so I'm excited. And I'm also excited to be talking to you again, Brother Clemson Brown, with the help of the God King Dorrell. I have written a book called The Black City Plan.com, theblackcityplan.com. It's free. You should all read it. I am probably one of the few students of Dr. John Henry Clark directly, Dr. Ben, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and Professor Smalls and Professor Edward Scobie directly. So I'm 55 years old. What I would say to the panel on the context of this is that the majority of the things that we need to accomplish has to be accomplished by having power. So me talking about incarceration, it's the same as talking about drugs, it's the same as talking about housing, it's the same as talking about poverty. We need to study power. Power is the ability to define your reality and have other people respond to your reality as if it's their own. Each of you on this panel are probably in black cities. The only way that you can make a change is if you, as a soldier, takes power by helping to take over or leading a black city. Cities is where our people live. Cities is where we live and die. Cities is where we struggle. Cities is where we prevail. We get employed. We pay taxes. We raise our family. We marry. We die. It is cities that are the battleground, and each and every one of you, because I've heard you, are capable of taking city leadership. When you take city leadership, when you take the city, you take a government. if you want to do something important in your life, take a government. If you could take Chicago, if you could take Detroit, if you could take Newark, if you could take LA, right? If you could take Oakland, this is where our fight lies, because it's in the city that controls us. It controls everything that we do in this city. They fake us out looking at what happens nationally, but we get killed in our cities. We make money in our cities. Take the city, you are taking power. So it's as simple as that. A lot of people can tell you to do a lot of different things about, we can march to our shoes fall off, and we can talk, and we could try to sound smart, and we could be economic businessmen or women, right? That's not going to get our people a step forward. It's not going to save their children. You are capable of taking power. Look at these people who are mayors and city council people. You can beat them. People vote for pretty suits and pretty dresses and articulate, but none of those people have a plan. Read the Black City Plan, change it, modify it, get a group together and take power. So incarceration, that's just part of the system because we're off our kill. We're literally off our kill. We don't see guns, drugs, the prison pipeline. We don't see them making money off of it. We don't even see whack Black people participating as lawyers, as judges, and district attorneys, like participating in that process to make themselves. So we have Kamala Harris. Yes, she could be a Black vice president, but she walked her way up, right, in this system without giving us a great alternative. I'm not trying to condemn the sister, because I don't condemn sisters, because I don't walk in their shoes and I'm proud of them. But I am just trying to say is that she didn't have a plan for Black empowerment. I'll stop, but you have to have a plan of Black empowerment. And I can tell you this. You know why I can tell you this? Because Dr. John Henry Clark taught me this directly. Dr. Jeffries taught me this directly. Professor James Small taught me this directly. And you can ask Brother Clemson Brown if that is true. But it's only power. Power is our only conversation in taking governments. So let's practice taking governments. And I'm not saying violently. I'm saying take the government with our, how can I say, with our ingenuity, with our prowess, as if that's the only thing that's in our face. Let's take these governments and then run these governments like we think they should be run in the case of our people. I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Reggie. Brother Miller, last word. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I had myself muted. I had to unmute myself.
It's okay.
My last word would be, after something powerful, like Brother Reggie said, he pretty much said a lot of things that I can say. But to sum it all up, I would say, in addition to what Brother Reggie stated, we have to learn how to maneuver within enemy lines. I teach my students this. We tend to think that we get lost in the illusion that we're citizens, and we're still prisoners. We were prisoners when they brought us over here under white supremacy in 1619, and we're still prisoners now. And so we have to know how to maneuver behind enemy lines to accomplish that goal. So it pretty much leads up to what Brother Reggie was saying. We have to take these cities, we do get lost at things on a national level, but at the same time, national level doesn't affect us directly like a city level or a state level, where you have, governors, you have judges, you have legislators, you have policymakers. These are the people who affect us directly. and they start with the smallest laws, and that we don't pay attention to them. I would say that we also have to teach our Black youth. And when this is what I mean by maneuver, we have to teach our Black youth not to get lost in the image that, you know, white supremacy has painted for Black people, which is that, you know, we the thugs, we the criminals, we the bitches, we the hoes, we the gangsters. That's not who we are. We're Africans. We're not that. And once we teach them to not get engulfed in that type of lifestyle, they won't get caught up in lives of crime because they won't think it's normal. You know, we tend to, you know I was born in 91. You know, my generation, you know, we grew up watching Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood, Baby Boy, thinking this is the way we're supposed to be. We're thinking we're supposed to be this way, and it's like, no, that's not who we really are. We're not Baby Boy. We're not Kane. We're not Old Dog. You see what I'm saying? We're not Doughboy. That's the image that the media has portrayed of us, and this is not who we are. So we have to put another image into the heads and minds of Black youth. We have to do that. We have to put another image in their heads so that when they see the image that white supremacy has painted for us, it's like, no, that's not cool. It's not cool to say I'm a gangster. It's not cool to say I'm a nigga. It's not cool to say these things. When we look at those things, because that's the main thing I see from being in the schools. I see our children thinking that this is who they really are, and they fantasize and they romanticize with that lifestyle. They romanticize with being the gangster. They romanticize with being the bitch. They romanticize with being the thug. They think this is who they are. We have to get that image out of their head so that way they won't get caught up in this system that white supremacy has created, which is the new slit like it's easy. If we think that we criminals, this is the life, this is the lifestyle we're gonna keep living. We're gonna teach it to our children, and it's gonna keep producing the same type of, you know, people. So that's what I would say. I would say that we have to get that mentality out of the heads of our youth, and once they get that mentality out of their heads, they'll be able to take a city. You see, they'll be able to conquer a government. So that's what I would like to add on, and that's what I would like to say.
Sister Nefri Nigel, can you give us your final words on this topic of incarceration, and how would you see us maneuvering to change and to bring ourselves into power as opposed to jail?
Honestly, I disagree slightly with the idea that we are going to put people in place and vote power into our communities. I think that power comes from within the community. We have to be first creating and cultivating the kinds of people and the kinds of leaders that would first lead the community. We have to be able to self-sustain our community without the government. And then from there, we will go into taking over control of and asserting our power against the powers that be. The brother was very correct that we romanticize the the bitch and the nigga and everything. We definitely romanticize it, but that is what has been left by previous generations. So there is no romanticizing an intellectual. We didn't get a romanticizing of quality mothers. We didn't get that. So that's kind of what we have to work with. We also know that, and I'm speaking from the perspective of youth. Like for me, as soon as people start to speak about like the the idea that, well, once we get this person in office, that's when everything is going to, like, that it really turns off the minds of the youth, because it's like, that's what you were saying however many years ago. And also, what about us? What about the young people that we're just going to keep on doing the same things and ultimately be left behind again? So I think that once we invest in creating the kinds of people that we want to see, then we can start to romanticize and start to see the true greatness within ourselves. And from that point, we don't have to worry about the police, because we'll be policing ourselves. We'll be all living in how Tap just posted the John Henry Clark Law and Order in Africa, and he, he broke, and this however many years ago, he broke down that we were policing ourselves. We didn't need to police. Even the idea of police is not something that we need, because we hold each other accountable. We all live within Ma'at. And if we're all living within Ma'at, the police don't need to come into our community. We would be with each other in our community. So I just I don't like the idea that we're going to be taking over a government that, in my opinion, started off null and void. It's not something that, as an intellectual maroon, I'm going to stand face to face against and see it as adequate, or see it as something to be respected. And I know that the youth, without having an understanding of intellectual maroonage, are not going to look face to face to the police or to any kind of government quote unquote official and give that respect, because we already know that justice is. I'm sorry.
Sister Nefer, will you agree that we are occupied? Will you agree with that?
I didn't hear what you said.
Will you agree that we are occupied by a military?
That we are occupied by a military?
Yes, that we are under the system of a military. Will you agree with that?
Certainly.
Okay.
Most
and
certainly.
they have power. Will you agree with that? They control our economics, politics, and culture. Will you agree with that, sister?
They control their politics. We have to create our own.
But do
economically,
they control our
control
economics,
our
politics? Do they control our economics, politics, and culture? Do they?
They control our minds, and so yes, they do.
Okay, wonderful. And so the way that they do it is by controlling us in government, city, state, and federal government. They control us based on territories. Is that true?
Correct.
So if we are going to, if we're doing war, we would have to take back those territories. Correct?
Are you speaking on a neighborhood level? What exactly are you speaking on?
War is fought in neighborhoods, in blocks. War is fought in cities.
Mm-hmm.
War is fought in states, right? War is fought all over the nation. So if we are to fight, then we have to use structure to fight. And I'm not saying that our leadership is going to be the best, but Nefa, I'm looking at you as the leader, right? My joy would be to have a sister like you, right, who is a revolutionary, run a city, right? Control economics, politics, and culture. So I am definitely talking about within, because I am talking specifically about you, right? So I've been to Africa with Dr. John Henry Clark. I was one of the few people to go to Africa with Dr. John Henry Clark. We have no power in Africa. We have no power whatsoever in Africa. Let's be crystal clear.
I disagree.
Okay, disagree. Let me hear your disagreement.
To say that we have no power whatsoever in Africa, I disagree with that. I think that the amount of power that we have here compared to Africa is obviously depending on the country, right? Because every country has its own government and its own people with their own mindsets. But if you look at a country like South Africa, who honestly relatively is similar to areas in America in terms of culture and in terms of history, they have been able to go within their community and create the kind of environment that you're talking about creating, where they can go and start a party and go up against the government. So I wouldn't say that they don't have, that
I'm
there's
saying
just no power in Africa.
Black Americans, or African from America, we have no power in Africa. It did not work for us in Liberia, right? Africa has their own culture and traditions, and though we are their brothers and sisters, they're not relinquishing any power to us. They never have. If they offer citizenship, and that's a beautiful thing, but they don't. But we don't have power. Power is the ability to control our economics, politics, and culture. I love Africa. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're running. When you go to many places in Africa, especially on the west coast of Africa, it's Islamic. If it's not Islamic, it's more Christian than the worst Pentecostal church, right? They are still fighting colonialism. They're many years behind revolutionary thinking. I'm not talking about all Africans. I'm just talking about the governments in many of Africa is controlled by the United States, China, and Russia. And you're going to places where they have picked the governments here, the European governments have picked those leaders. So power is something, Sister Nefa, that you should be concerned with. And our fight is block by block, city by city, over guns, drugs, right? Trying to convince the gang brothers and sisters that they should be in this fight for a better Black people. So I hope I added. Maybe you can still disagree, and I respect that. But as if you read my work, the blackcityplan.com, maybe you get a better idea of it. And if you know my history, maybe you would get a better deal. But I respect you. I love you. And I'm only disagreeing just to see if I could push you. So excuse me, sister. But I'm not trying to be hostile. I'm just trying to get your best answer on the point.
No, I completely understand and I respect it. And I was understanding that you were saying that as African people, continental Africans don't have power within Africa. And that's what I was disagreeing with wholeheartedly. But as African Americans having power in Africa, we can't expect to have power when our numbers are not even worth mentioning. But I will say that recently, more so, if you look at countries like the Gambia, with I believe it's Blacksit YouTube, they have, I think, just in the last 2 or 3 years, and they're not African Americans, but let's just say diasporans. African diasporans have been able to go to Africa recently and make changes within the government. So it is something that is slowly but surely, pole happening. So what we have to do is show up for ourselves in a place where we do have power. If you look at a place like Tanzania, where you cannot say at all that President Magufuli is a puppet. You just can't say that. And it's sad that there's only one country that I can wholeheartedly say that truth about in Africa, but it is the truth. And it is just one, but as long as we as diasporans show support, as continental Africans show support for someone that is expressing power on a government level, then it's a start. It's a start. And it is something that we have to be aware of as African Americans and as diasporans. We have to be aware of government politics in Africa because that's home base. If we don't have knowledge of the fact that there's elections coming up in Tanzania and Magufuli has been really, he has been flexing African power, African ideologies. He's been flexing that onto the West, and they're coming back and forth, but he stands firm. These are things that we need to know as African Americans, as diasporans, period, because that is home base. And the elections within your immediate unit matter, but African elections, African politics, that's home base and it matters. And we do have power there, but we have to show up for ourselves.
Sister, my sister Tina, would you give us your commentary? And brother, just stand by
Sure.
because we're coming to you next to close us out. And take as much time,
Sure,
much
thank
time as
you.
you want to, Sister Tina.
It was great to hear both what my brother and sister had to say. Yes. Well, incarceration. I think the way about moving on from that and growing in power and making powerful strides moving forward would be probably a combination of the two. I absolutely believe self-governance is paramount. I also believe that it's important to be in decision-making positions because we are still largely influenced by other people's decisions, and therefore, where we can be used to make, or where we can implement decisions that can be better, then it will be better to get into those seats to do so. Otherwise, it may be a longer struggle. So I think a combination of the two is definitely important. I also love that my sister brought up Black family who are currently in Gambia and a part of the diaspora, because I think the transnational discussions are very important. I think many a times we have biased viewpoints on our story, biased viewpoints on what is happening within our international community, and actually it all affects us, whether we are in Africa or whether we are in America or in the UK. So it's important to continue having transnational discussions, so that we can see the reality of really what is happening, because the borders mean less and less as time moves on. And as we see in Blacksit, we've got the diaspora and coming from the UK and influencing governmental decisions there. I think that's the way forward, really. It doesn't matter where you are, you can be part of influencing those decisions, be it in a self-governmental perspective where you are grassroots, influencing the community, or whether you are in governmental seats influencing the governmental nations. So I think a combination of the two is definitely important in moving forward and growing for a better future. So that's my take on it,
Thank you
on my
so
closing
much.
thoughts. Thank you.
Brother Dexter, we're back with you. They think that you're a teenager, so let them have it.
So I'm gonna start off with the avoiding jail part. I grew up. Everybody I grew up with been to jail. I'm like the only one that hasn't been to jail out of my immediate circle of 5 or 6. And coming up in a city that was one of the most segregated cities in America, as a youth, you're not really conscious or aware of what really matters in life, because school don't teach you what really matters in life. They just teach you how to take the test and teach you a little bit of this and that, but it's not how to survive, and it's not what really matters in life. Um, Secondly, I see, well, piggybacking off of that, having a African-centered consciousness will show you what really matters as far as life goes, because really, we trying to survive out here, and it's a war out here to eliminate us. So we got to figure out how to survive, the basic necessities needed to survive. And from there, then we go to the power issue. I see different types of power. You got immediate power, political power, economic power. Um, with the immediate power is what an individual could do for themselves. And I agree with both sides. We got to fight on all fronts. Definitely, it's a system of capitalism in America. So we got to decide. We don't have to decide. We already know that it doesn't work in our best interest, but that's what we under right now. So I agree with both of them. Somebody has to, with an African centered mindset, has to try to attain that position if they want to go that route. And I also agree that we need to be dealing with international affairs and making changes in government over in Africa, and actually going there and building whatever we need to build there and make the relationships that we need. Everybody that came before us did it, like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King did it, Kwame Nkrumah came to America, Marcus Garvey came to America. His plans was to go to Africa. So we see that we have to control our own, from economics to politics, and we also see that Africa is what is, first of all, is our home, and second of all, is what all these European nations is fighting over. They fighting over the resources there and to control the people there as well. So
Can I ask you a
whatever.
question?
Mhm.
Okay. Have you seen the emergence of African or Afrocentric pimping?
Of
People
course,
who
definitely,
talk
definitely.
Africa, right?
Right.
Talk black, right?
Yeah,
But it's basically brown white people, right?
yeah, just capitalists.
And that they have turned a lot of our people off because they're not revolutionaries,
Right, exactly.
and they romanticize Africa many times not being there, right?
Definitely.
Malcolm X lived. Malcolm X wasn't necessarily African centered. He was a black nationalist revolutionary, right?
Right.
Dr. John Henry Clark was his partner. He helped write the Organization of Afro American Unity, right?
Yep. Mhm.
Uh, so the way to go is definitely has to be an agenda, right?
Right.
That encompasses some history, right? Everybody knows I study ancient Egypt, but I study ancient Egypt, but my love is black nationalism.
Right.
if my ancient Egypt studies don't help me with Black nationalism, then I'll throw it in the garbage real quick.
Right.
Take off the hat, switch it around. I care less about ancient Egypt unless it guides to Black nationalism, right?
Right.
Because it is a civilization that we know that we built. So I just wanted to agree with you, but I also wanted to just push on this thing of this Afrocentric African. I would rather go and study revolutionary thinking and
Right.
use models.
H. Brown and Kwame Ture. Definitely.
That's correct, right? I would read revolutionary thinking, the thoughts of Assata Shakur, Malcolm X,
Right.
Khalid Muhammad, right?
They was totally against the capitalist society.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, so Dexter, I would just add, because there's a lot of, people come if they feel that they could fulfill a need. So if they could sound Afrocentric, if they could put on a garb, right? But they haven't been in no Black organizations, never was a soldier, never took orders from another Black revolutionary, but now they're on top because they sound good, right? That's the problem that we're facing in America, right? We have charlatans, right? And they're worse. I can understand somebody selling drugs. I can understand their rationale for selling drugs, right? But I have despicable feeling about Black people that will try to pimp Africa, right? So I watch, and then when I get a chance to talk to them, I talk to them. I have a despicable, it's just despicable what people try to do is try to romance, give you something that you think that you've been starving for as far as identity, and then pimp you, right? And then take your money and take your hopes and dreams and lead you astray, and you find out that you less better off than when you even met those people or listened to them, right? So I commend all of you. I'm so happy to be on this show with you all. Look, write your thoughts down.
I see somebody using the city plan that you're speaking of. Have you ever heard of Stonecrest, Georgia?
Stonecrest, Georgia. They started. There has always been Black towns and small Black cities, and that's what my book is based on.
Right.
So there's also mixed cities that are putting in reparations laws. These are all happening in cities. Cities is where it happens. But I don't disagree with the two sisters about the outlook for Africa. I don't. My whole thing is that Africa itself has to go and do the same process. Africa has to control its cities. It has to control its states, and it has to have an African agenda for African people. We all have to go through the same process. But for us as revolutionaries here, right, like Antonio on the side, right, crystal clear, it is about power. And if you are doing anything else but trying to get power, you wasting your time.
Right.
Wow. Brothers and sisters, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your input, your wisdom, and your ability to communicate very deep insights that will empower our people as we go along. I want to make a commentary in closing. I was speaking about our young people and how I thought they had missed the mark. And I was told by a couple of brothers, no, they didn't miss the mark, Minister Brown. You missed the mark because our young people are reflecting the times. They are reflecting a world that they live in. So their music and their actions are reflecting their world. It is they the elders like yourself who didn't leave them a clear path. But I disagree with that, even though I will admit that they do reflect the time, our young people in their music. Because if you cut on the television, everything is about sex and drugs, and every hero has to have a gun. I mean, if you watch Law and Order, it's about who's got the guns, who's got the power. And they walk around with the power literally on their hips. Every story that has a hero, the hero has a gun. And so our young people project that in their music and in their action. So all of them want to be a hero. And one of the main things they feel you need in order to be a hero is a gun. But they don't know who the enemy is, so they use the gun on one another to empower the enemy that much more. But if they would just realize the power that they have, and if you look at hip hop has literally changed the world. Their creativity, Black youth creativity, influences the world. Whatever they come up with, it goes around the world. You see it on television. Everybody says, we create so many jobs and so much revenue and economics for other people with our creativity, and especially in the music world. But can you imagine if our young people would take that same power that they have in terms of impacting the world and influence the world, and begin to make those songs not about bitches and whores and sucking my this and that, and I mean, you know, all that negative stuff, but start to create the positive music about the new world that we can bring into being. Nobody shows the new world that can be brought into being through our minds and through our focusing on our.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir. But let me finish, and then I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead, Reggie.
Yeah. So, is America as violent as apple pie?
Yes, it is.
It is. Was
its history is violent. It's been violent like that since the beginning.
Right. So to live in America, you know, you're living in a violent place.
It grew up in violence.
That's okay. So was Malcolm X a pimp?
At one point, yes.
Yeah, at one point, right? Did he sell drugs?
At one point, yes, but he didn't.
So there's an evolution. There is a evolution that people have to go through, right? And the evolution has to be it's revolutionary for us, right? So
Yeah.
to dream what, even if you dreamt about this situation about guns and stuff like that, the fact is America will always be a violent place. I agree with you. We have to learn, and we have to learn how to use guns. We have to learn how to use it as a tool, right? About the music, blues, jazz, all of that, it was sexual. It was just a different time in the freedom of speech of America. These young people that you're talking about that are spitting these raps, these are some of the most potential, staunchest revolutionaries that we have ever had, right? They you know what? It's in their mindset. It's up for us to give them an agenda so that they can use this on, and they will. But we can't knock them for expressing what they see because the generation before them, your generation, opted for civil rights and integration. And they inherited this fake dream, right? The generation before that and that, Garvey and stuff like that, was different. The civil rights generation, they opted for inclusion and integration. So it's become a nightmare for them. So you have to accept that and just leave it where it is and just offer guidance as to how to get them off of that monkey. But I can't see you criticizing on one hand and then saying what if on the other hand, when these are your future. These are your future. This is your future. The sisters, they're your future, the brothers, and they live day to day. You heard the brother Antonio, you heard him. He lives day to day. The other brother, Dexter, they live day to day in the jungle, right? And they live through it. Can't knock if you're talking to this specific audience. You just see people, you see the sisters going through it. One sister wants to go to Africa. Other sisters, we're going through it. Let us go through it. And if you got money, your money, if you got, thanks for your platform because it's a gift to us, right? So that we can talk. It's your generation, right? With the homes, with the property, with the cars, right? With all of that, that has to do better to help us succeed. But the generation above us doesn't want to do better for us because those are the ones in power who are disenfranchising us. They're the lawyers, the doctors, the district attorneys, and they're disenfranchising the young people. And then you come around and you saw, and not you, but your generation starts singing a song about how bad our young generation is. It's because of your failure, not you, Brother Clemson Brown, but the failure of your generation, right? Because you opted out of the movement and in large. Not all of you. I love you. Not you. I'm not talking about you, and I'm not talking about my elders, but I'm talking about at large. You got your pretty houses, your lemonade on the porch. You go fishing, you have your little Cadillacs and your old cars that you keep. You sold us out. So don't talk to us about our rap music because it's just music, right? The crimes, we need to fix that internally. We get cracked for the most part, right? In places, right? We have to do that. But your generation, your people, need to get, y'all don't even talk to each other except for in conferences. Except for conferences. Y'all don't even talk to each other. We talk to each other. You cats don't even talk to each other. You can't get 100 black leaders in a goddamn room and be in trouble in your generation. So if you want to talk about my generation and this generation, you can't get 100 of you in a room. You failed.
Brother Reggie, I guess it's okay if I say something. I'm trying, I'm always learning. And the way I learn is by listening. And first of all, let me say that this generation, my generation, which would include Malcolm X and Kwame Ture and Dr. King, Dr. Clark, Van Sertima, Asa Hilliard, look, thousands of these brothers, the ones that taught you. That was my generation, the generation that built the National Black United Front, that did the demonstrations against the South African embassy, and that traveled to Cuba and was responsible for influencing the world and helping to bring about the destruction of the South African government and the release of Nelson Mandela. All of these people you talk about my generation and was on the line with me, or I should say, and I was on the front line with them, documenting almost every demonstration and every action and traveling all over Africa. And I can say what we left to our generation was the history of all of this movement. And even though most of that leadership was assassinated, was killed, gave their lives in the struggle to bring about a more liberated African mind and African body. That legacy that they left is the legacy that I'm talking about. And if you talk, if you look at the KRS and all the young people whose music was captured and used to destroy us through the manipulation of the money and etc. That was a part of collateral damage. I understand, and I'm not disagreeing wholeheartedly with you. What I'm trying to say to you is that, no, that's not the legacy that this generation left. This generation was one of the greatest committed warriors and African-centered scholars, because you can't condemn this generation, the generation that I came up in, without condemning Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben and Dr. Jefferson, Dr. Smalls, and all of those other people who you say was your teacher. And Reggie, look, I was on the front line with you. Or rather, you was on the front line with me because I'm the elder. And all of the things that brought about your consciousness was brought about through the sacrifice of this generation. And this generation, as elders, is now leaving the insight and the wisdom of this generation to be bestowed on the younger people if they would listen. And when I say dream of the world that you want to see brought into being, that's directive.
But Brother Clemson,
directive. Let me finish, Reggie.
But I said, Elder,
listen,
I wasn't talking about you, Elder.
No,
but I'm talking about the generation.
And I'm telling you, I'm in the same generation that all the people you say trained you was in, and that's not the legacy that they left you. And if I look at my children, who would be the generation that we're making reference to, because it is my son, because I lived in the Bronx, and all of this rap and everything came in his generation. And I saw it, and I saw how they started out to go one way, and the movement got captured, because they started out talking about, the police, the negative aspects and so forth. So look, yes, we evolve. I'm in complete agreement with you on most of the things you say, but I'm not in full agreement with you, because I can't be in full agreement with you, because sometimes I try to give us
Minister Brown,
some direction.
Elder, I had said in the beginning, I am not talking about you, and I'm not talking about my teachers, right? And you're included. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about the generation of revolutionaries who were marginalized by the generation who opted into integration, right? Who became the government leaders, right? In our cities and towns, in our states, in our caucuses and stuff like that. And I'm talking about that generation, and they sold that generation who was in power sold out the people for their benefits. I'm not talking about you, but I said I'm not talking about you. So I don't have to defend my comments about the generation unless you want to include yourself into the generation that sold us out. You're not in the generation that sold us out. So with that, that's why we have a revolutionary element, because of the people in your generation. But we fought against the Negroes. Malcolm X fought against the talented 10 and the other Negroes. So we have always fought. There's always been a small percentage of us who fought, but I'm just talking in general because I didn't start the generation blame game and I didn't start the generation criticizing. I'm just saying that these young soldiers that's on this line, you could talk honestly to them, but the help that they need is the help from the previous generation who forfeited their obligations to them. And that's what that's the reality is. The other generation, not you, Brother Clemson Brown, don't take this personally. They're the DAs. When these kids go up, they see black DAs. They see black officers hitting them head with sticks and throwing walkie-talkies in their face and beating them to the ground. They see the captains that are black folks with no compassion. They see the black prison guards with no compassion, right? We're talking about that generation that has betrayed African people. Not you, not the groups that we work with, but the reality is that we've created a new overseer class. And I'm not talking about you. And yes, I don't have to defend who were my teachers. I don't have to defend that. You know, I don't have to defend that. It's not whether I said they were. So I don't have to defend that, right? But I'm talking about a generation of black folks that we need to move. We need to move out of their positions in politics. And these young people that's on this panel right here can move them. They need to move. They don't need to feel safe walking around when they have betrayed our people, right? We don't need to talk to them, shake their hands. They don't need to feel like they're with us when they're like this AG on Breonna Taylor. We need to move the Negroes like that. They don't need to feel safe. Come close to us, right? Right? We don't have to be violent, but we need to move them. And that's what I'm talking about, the ability for these young people. This rap music, if you ever heard African songs, African war songs, these are African war songs, right? They're African war songs. They're about blood, and they're about survival. They're not perfect, but they are moving people. You see what's happening, the drill music in Chicago? I don't care if you, as 80 years old, you hear some drill music, you jumping up, right? Right? So it's a war song. So understand that it is African, and it is the same thing as the Haitian Revolution. It's the same thing as the Mau Mau. It's the same thing. It's just how you want to perceive it. But I know what it is. Peace.
Brother Reggie, I love you, brother.
Yeah, I love you too.
And I love each and every one of our participants this morning who look, it was a marvelous program. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we may not agree with everything and maybe not even on every direction, but it is our ability to think things out and to see things, and we help each other see things. So I want to thank all of you this morning for helping us to see a little clearer and a little deeper. Peace and power. Thank you.
Peace to you, Minister Brown. Love you too.
All right now.
Thanks, Elder.
Okay, thank you.